of scientific management. Objectives. The main objective of our presentation today is to help students understand biography of Taylor, history of scientific management, arguments of scientific management, principles of scientific management, implication of scientific management, and criticism of Taylor's theory. Biography of Taylor. Taylor was born on March 20th, 1865, into a upper-class liberal Philadelphia family. His dad was a lawyer and his mom was a feminist. Both believed in high thinking and plain living. Taylor was always counting and measuring things to figure a better way of doing something. At age 25, Taylor earned an engineering degree at the Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. He worked as a mechanist and pattern maker in Philadelphia at the Enterprise Works, then became a common laborer at the Midvale Steel Company. This is where his interest for scientific management came into play. He started as a job clerk there and quickly progressed to mechanist, foreman, maintenance foreman, and chief craftsman. Within 6 weeks, he advanced to research director and then chief engineer. Unfortunately, he died in 1815. He died in 1915. History of scientific management. Scientific management, also known as Taylorism, is one of the earliest theories of workplace management. Taylor, during the early years of his career, studied the working pattern in manufacturing industries. He found that there are several issues in industrial management that previous management theories don't address. He started the theory movement with his associates to study how work was performed and how it affected productivity. He argued that making people work hard wasn't as effective as optimizing the way they work. He proposed that optimizing and simplifying work will lead to productivity. Taylor's words for this theory included shop management, process management. However, scientific management, which is what we all know, came into attention in 1919 when Anthony Louis Brandeis Equiseti Anthony popularized the term scientific management. Scientific management is basically a theory of management that analyzes and synthesizes workflow. Its main aim is to improve economic efficiency, especially labor productivity. What did Taylor discover on management? He realized that the employee was slowing down their pace. He pushed workers to fasten the pace as a way of maximizing their output. Wasted human effort that was largely unnoticed were preventing optimal productivity. This unproductivity among workers were due to fallacious beliefs of workers. These are beliefs that are often held by workers, such that they believe that when they put much into their business or into their work, they'll end up finding themselves being unemployed. As a result, do not want to put in much effort. Detective system of management. This is a system of management whereby individuals find themselves at unoccupied places. That is, they find themselves at areas whereby their interests do not fit into the place or the area of study, leading to unproductivity. Rule of thumb that is inefficient. Rule of thumb, according to Wikipedia, is a theory that is based on experiences rather than facts. They are rules that are often proposed or opposed by the employers based on their previous experiences and do not have factual information or backings. He emphasized that the elimination of these causes will lead to prosperity of not only the employer but the employee. By the argument, he collected experiments on how to improve productivity. Thus, the shovel experiment and the bricklaying experiment. The shovel experiment is basically an experience whereby individuals who are supposed to carry or shovel stones or gravel to a particular area are enticed by the use of money. And it was realized that the more individuals are being given money, the more they are able to do their work well, productively. He also supported his arguments in his book titled Principles of Management. He further expounded these arguments in his book, where he provides a blueprint for the implementation of scientific management. What basically are the principles of scientific management? The first is science, not a rule of thumb. Taylor advocated that employers ought to examine each element of job in a scientific way, that is, in a way that involves a systematic procedures involving observing, experimenting, analyzing tasks performed by workers, and drawing conclusions on those. These should be employed to back up management decisions. Secondly, harmony or cooperation between employer and workers was found relevant as a way of ensuring productivity. He stated that relationship between employer and workers must be maintained and work should be done in accordance to set standard in the organization. Why is this important? This is because it will help ensure efficiency in the work environment by avoiding misunderstanding and creating harmony between these individuals. Thirdly, we talk about scientific selection and training and development of workers. In here, he stated that employees should be selected to perform a task based on their qualifications, skills, knowledge. Therefore, incapable workers should be taken out, whereas capable ones are hired. Workers with physical and intellectual abilities must speed up the pace to increase productivity. Fourthly, he said division of labor was an important principle in management. Why? This is the case whereby responsibility of employers and workers are divided and communicated. Complex tasks are broken down into simpler components to find an optimal method of performing a task. This ensures clarity on how the job is to be done and in turn, giving the workers the control, the responsibility to perform that task. So how are these principles being applied in our daily organizations? Let's take for an example the first principle. How is it implied? Management now make decisions which are backed by facts and figures, which reflect scientific investigation. They don't just use a rule of thumb, but they observe, they experiment and draw conclusions before rules are being made. Secondly, organizations have human resource departments that ensures cooperation between employers and workers. As a way of ensuring or creating harmony, organizations have human resource departments. They undergo board meetings and also team tasks that aims at ensuring cooperation between these individuals and also channeling grievances between employers and then the workers. Thirdly, principle maintain this principle maintains that highly qualified persons should occupy the job top position in an organization as a way of ensuring people with high quality being at where they ought to be. Organizations now look at qualification. When we take, for example, going for an interview, they look at your qualification. If your qualification meets their desired standard, you end up finding yourself in the top rankers. If it doesn't, you find yourself in the less ranking, but still being paid. Fourth principle, segregation of departments like interns, employees, management, and workers who are performing distinct functions that lead to overall organizational performance as a way of ensuring productivity. Workers are being grouped into interns and employees and performing a task so that the work will go at a faster rate. Despite Taylor's theory was really important in this organization, there are little critics to his theory. The first is that his theory failed to acknowledge human aspects. Thus, the tasks that workers had to perform often led them to have no room to think. It assembles workers who operate differently. That is, they work so hard to the extent that they have no form of interaction. Interaction is part of every human life. It helps relieve stress. But in his case, there was no form of interaction, dehumanizing human skills. Secondly, failed to acknowledge culture. He failed to acknowledge variance among individuals, and in turn regarded workers as ununiform and ignored their ideas and suggestions. And thirdly, he assumed workers to be so money hungry. He realized that individuals need to work only when they are being paid good in a perfect way. But that wasn't so. There were individuals who were working in order to increase or influence performance. Fredrick Winslow Taylor stated, made a quote, and he said, work consists mainly of simple, not particularly interesting tasks. The only way to get people to do them is to incentivize them properly and monitor them carefully. This quote simply informs us that the best way to have individuals working for an organization is when you provide them incentive in the form of money or motivation. And why is this so? Because they'll increase productivity, and also workers or employees must ensure monitoring carefully. These are the references to our reading. In case you are baffled by any of our explanation, you can take these references and find more for yourself.